With everybody going through what they're going through in the LiLLie group, was there a safe place for women to be when they came out, or, you know, when they felt they needed a safe place to be?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, we never established anything official, but because we had this network of women who were very understanding and supportive, there was always someone who was willing to open up a door. I had, I don't know, maybe 2 different people who stayed at my place briefly because they got kicked out or they felt unsafe. There have been women who were dealing with abuse and potentially a very dangerous situation. And there was always a LiLLie who we could call and say, you know, so-and-so is really scared, and do you have any recommendations? And then the, you know, shelters and other groups and lawyers and these people on these agencies, they would come out of the woodwork. We would find, you know, safe havens for people. It hasn't happened a lot, but it has happened. And even if it's just one in the 12 years that we've been doing this, it's worth it.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
I mean, it could be the difference between saving somebody's life and just saving somebody's mental health in general.
Yeah. One of our very first participants in LiLLies, after she left her husband, and because of her faith, I was really surprised that actually happened, but it did, and she has gone on to she's now a psychologist.
Wow.
And so it's like, oh, we have a therapist who, I got somebody you can call, and she knows your road, and you need to talk to her. Okay. So it's a network of women who understand the situation, and they've stepped up.
Now it's like a network of 650, possibly more women out there.
Yeah, we should look that up. We could actually look it up.
That's great, because there's people out there right now like who need that support and you know, are looking for a way to stay safe and someone to talk to.
Yeah. Well, it starts with having somebody to talk to.
Right.
And you know, we've had, when people first show up, I've seen frustration, guilt, fear, and usually what ends up happening is that somebody, oh, thank you. I'm amazed that there's a group out there where you understand me. I never imagined that I could be sitting in a room and hear people saying and sharing exactly what I'm going through right now. And saying, you know, like using like the roller coaster or get your ducks in a row.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of roller coaster.
Yeah.
So I guess there's stages of the roller coaster that you go through.
Daily. Yeah. And it's a phase. It's a phase.
It's like a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. The roller coaster is a journey that usually when I refer to the roller coaster, it's the couple that is riding this roller coaster. And you know, you're not always in the same place. For example, with Kevin, it was there'd be good days and bad days, and there'd be days when he would be just normal, and we'd just be going around, you know, going about our usual day, and then all of a sudden there's anger, there's sadness, there's the pointing of fingers, and then there's regret, and you know, hurtful things can be said, and as much as, you know, we very, very rarely got to the point where we did that in front of the kids. Fortunately, that was one of our agreements. If this starts happening in front of the kids, ironically, I don't think I mentioned this. My daughter saw us hug, and that's how she knew something was wrong. Wow. Yeah, because we didn't do that. And after one of these roller coaster evenings that we had, she saw us hug, and we hugged it out and went to bed. That's when she knew something was amiss.
She saw affection actually happen in the house. Yeah,
she did. And that's sad. That's really, and what she ended up doing is she reached out to an uncle
Okay.
And the uncle got back in touch and said, Carson's freaking out a little bit. What's going on? And that's when I decided it's time to come out to her, because now we need to give her an explanation. Now we need her to be aware of why this is uncomfortable. Your kids shouldn't see you hug and think something's wrong.
Exactly.
You know? That just,
Yeah.
it's not the way it's supposed to work. And,
Wow. And how old was she around then?
I think she's
Like
12 or
12.
13. She would, you know, any kid who thinks there's something wrong in their parents' relationship is going to have that fear. That's normal. It was shortly after that I came out to her. And when I came out to her, her father was there. And it was important to me that he be there, because now he's passed away. He passed away not that long ago.
Sorry.
So I don't, thank you. There could have been other reasons that we got divorced.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When I told my parents that I needed to talk to them, now in my head I'm like, I need to come out to my parents. When I said out loud, I need to have a conversation with you, they knew I was going to be saying, Kevin and I are getting a divorce.
Okay.
That was not going to be a surprise to them.
And they didn't know to what extent.
No.
Yeah.
So that's why it was important for me to say, you know, eventually we are not going to be together. And it is because I am gay and we are moving on. I want him to be happy. He wants me to be happy. We are going to move on. You know,
And
I just didn't want all the blame to end up on him, even though some of it could have. Anyway.
so how
Makes
did
sense.
your parents take it? Coming out, at what age did you come out to your parents?
I was like 42, maybe.
42.
Maybe 43.
Okay.
I think I'd had a birthday in between when I started to come out to people and when I eventually came out to my parents. They were the last people I came out to, because it was the one I feared the most.
How did they take it?
Well, it wasn't worst case scenario. It wasn't best case scenario. They didn't disown me and stop talking to me. And they didn't, my best case scenario would have been, oh, it's about time. We've always known you were gay and we're just waiting for you to figure it out. That would have been best case scenario. That didn't happen. It was really scary, because my father in particular is a very religious man. He was a very religious man. And it just so happens that when I was coming out, I have a cousin who was in the process of coming out as transgendered.
Okay.
And she was like, I told her at one point, it's like you are the one with the machete, because you are doing this before me. You're going to make my path a little bit easier.
Pioneer, yeah.
So it was a topic of conversation with my parents. And my dad said something that made me think, oh my God, this is not going to go well. And I knew that I was going to break his heart and challenge his faith. But when the words came out and I finally told them, he was just like, you're my daughter. I love you. We'll always be there for each other. You know, Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay.
Relief.
My dad was a phenomenal man. Okay. My mother,
I was going to ask.
she was knitting or crocheting or something, and this was happening in a hotel room while they were visiting from Iowa. She's knitting, and she's like, well, I'm just disgusted. And I'm like, oh, here it goes. But she threw me a curveball, and she was, I'm just disgusted. I'm really sad for your two daughters. And she was doing, it was like the divorce route. And, oh, my granddaughters, their mama's gay. And she didn't pull her support from me. She threw her concern over my children. And so it was overall better than I expected.
Okay. She still accepted you in a different
We're fine
way.
now. We're great now. And she loves sauna. Absolutely loves sauna.
Beautiful.
Like my pets. She probably likes sauna more than she likes me. she's like, cut that right.
So
Yeah.
after you came out to your parents at 42, cheers.
Cheers.
Then you started dating. Or, I mean, I guess during the time you weren't dating women exclusively just yet. You were still in a marriage, and you just came out to your kids and your mom and dad. And when was the point where you're like, I'm ready to like go out and there and really make this happen? Like, I'm really ready to explore women.
I think you just get to the point where you're so sad that you just don't really have much of a choice, you know. Really good friend of mine, part of this group of women, not the one I had the crush on.
The one you were hiking with, yeah.
You know, she said something to me just right before I came out. It was a little bit of a catalyst prior to me coming out. My dad had said something too, but she said she was going through a difficult time and she was questioning a lot, and she goes, how can I make sure that my son grows up to lead a joyful life? How can I teach my son how to lead a joyful life? Okay. And she was like, I need to lead a joyful life.
Right. Followed by example.
Yes. And I'm like, that is so wise. I need to lead a joyful life. And so after I finally did come out to the world, I did admit it. I was with Kevin for a long time and didn't do anything about it after coming out to him. Okay. But it took me a while, you know, before I could step out into the world and really start meeting people. I used the internet.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
The thing with my friend, I said it was Crush, and I'm glad it stayed in Crush. It was horrible and painful, and it was like that first one, you know, the first cut is the deepest.
Did you ever like sleep with your crush, or like, you know, make out?
I will admit we fooled around.
Okay.
But you can take that interpret that as you may. I'll leave that up to your imagination. But I don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, there's many routes. Like, you're confused. You're like, the communication part.
Let's just say it was an agonizing push me, pull me, wait for me.
The wait.
It was frustrating and painful, and I'm glad I got through it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was painful. And the other LiLLies out there will know. It's, you know, like anybody who's fallen in love or has had this.
Is that usually with the first woman, or the first, like, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna date, and like, it's like you probably never had sex with a woman yet, or
right.
like, you know, you never actually been on a date with a woman, and you're just like, how does this work?
Yes.
And I bet there's many of those situations. Like,
it's time for me to sow my wild seeds, they used to say. You know, it's time for me to start figuring this out. I do want to say that it is like a second adolescence. Or you missed the first one, and now you are finally really, truly experiencing the adolescence.
okay.
And a perfect example of this is my daughter, who is now a teenager, is, you know, this boy. She's like, oh my God, Mom, I guess. And I'm like, back when you could still talk on your phone and drive, I was driving home from work one day, and I realized, like, oh my God, she's feeling the same things I'm feeling. And I'm in my 40s, and this is like, I've never felt this way before. And I'm like, I'm an emotional adolescent. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I have no control. It's out of control. It was really a difficult time. And for those LiLLies out there, and, you know, when you're in your 40s or 50s and you're, you know, acting like a crazy teenager, and you're trying to raise teenagers, it's not easy. It's not easy.
The first couple dates, how did they pan out?
Well, no, pretty good, actually. I turned to the internet.
Okay. Yeah.
And I went on a dating site.
Okay.
And I chose to be honest about my situation, thinking that it'd be like the scarlet, I don't know, H, like heterosexual or married. I don't know what my letter would have been, but there were many of them.
Like, I think it maybe like bisexual.
Oh yeah, well, it's funny in the gay community. Sometimes the red B is worse. You know, sometimes I was surprised to learn that. By the way,
Because in different ways, like the bisexual can mean like you're still with guys and still with women.
yeah,
You know, there's no like, I guess, and then you go into relationship styles, but that's like a different story.
it is a different story, and it's a natural progression. I jumped over that. I didn't. I never used that. Finding labels is hard, and you think that there's a period of time where you have to choose one, and you really don't. And I hate labels, so you know. I was honest. I said I'm married, still live with him. I'm open. You know, he knows I'm dating, and it was like I was really surprised. People are like, okay.
Okay. Did
And-
they ask like, well, do you guys still have sex? I mean, that's like a.
Did anybody ever ask me that?
Like, do you still have sex with your husband while you're dating women?
I wasn't. No,
Yeah.
that had stopped. I'm still monogamous. I mean, I really, you know, that I think that's just one of my natural way of dealing, you know, going through life. So no, that part of my life was over. And eventually I turned the garage into my bedroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't the proudest moment of my life, but I made it. I did the best I could.
Still had a place to.
Yeah, it lasted a little while before we finally, that was like, okay, now we really should separate. It was really nice. What I did with it was really nice. I want to mention this because there was a woman I dated, and it was slightly long distance, so it wasn't anybody that I knew or was introduced to. It was an internet thing, and it was really surprising because this is when I began to realize that there are just all different kinds of arrangements and the ways that people navigate their relationships and make them work.
Yeah.
So she, back then, was a lesbian.
Okay.
In a committed relationship
With
a woman
a woman. Okay.
for over 20 years. Wow. Their relationship had been platonic for half that time. They were both in the military, and they had an agreement, just come home. And they really didn't care what happened while they were off on their deployments. It's just come home. Well, the woman that I dated one time, she came home pregnant. So she had a child, and they stayed together. And it was just like, you know, I'm not mad or guilty at you. We agreed, just come home. You came home. And her partner was thrilled. We're going to have a baby. And they were raising their child together. Okay. But their relationship had been platonic for years, over a decade. And I was kind of blown away by this. Like, but you're staying together? And she goes, I love her. She loves me. We're raising this child together. We don't sleep together. So I get shore leave. And I was her shore leave.
Oh.
And she was a little bit older than me. I thought of her for a long, long time, and I guess she still is. She was like a mentor, like a lesbian mentor to me. You know, she really made me feel.
Was this your first?
The first woman I dated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Officially dated, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really strange to me, and because she lived, it was kind of long distance. We didn't date, you know, every Friday night. It was, you know, every once in a while.
So it was like whenever she had offshore leave, or she would come over, and it was like maybe like a weekend, or maybe every other month.
It was occasionally when she happened to be in town. kind of
Okay.
thing. We go out
Okay. And then there was like communication. It was like, hey, I'm coming in town.
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, but she was, you know, she was a smart cookie, and she was an IT person in the military, and she was like, okay, so I'm not creepy, but I just want you to know that when you set up your online accounts, like dating, this is what you need to do and blah, blah, blah.
Wow, she helped
Because
you too.
she helped me with my computer privacy in case I did, end up dating a creeper. They wouldn't know where I lived. She's like, oh, I know where you live.
Because back in the days.
Yeah, well, she's a military IT person, so she probably knows how to hack into a lot of things. I don't know. It's been a long, long time since I just want to, if she's out there, I just want to thank her. And, I learned a lot. And,
Thank you for helping somebody out on their journey.
You know what? There was this night, I think it was our second or third date, and I think she had expectations.
Sorry to pry, but like on the first date, did you guys?
No.
Okay. You took it.
No, you know what happened the first date? I told my story, and I was just like, we were in a restaurant, and I was telling my story, and I was just like, this is so messed up. I'm like, this is so messed up. Right. I'm like, I'm not. I don't know if I was like, yeah, I'm just not that kind of person to like. Yeah. Maybe I'm old-fashioned that way. I just don't sleep with someone on the first date. But I was just like, after hearing my story come out of my mouth like that, I was just like, I can't possibly bring myself to.
Like, she's not even like, yeah, I got you.
I'm surprised she hasn't run out the door half an hour ago, Yeah. She was great, though. I mean, I guess I had some hang-ups, and I assumed that I would be judged. Mm. And I wasn't.
Okay.
Which is, again, like, thank you.
So, second date, third date, just
somewhere
going.
In there.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it was like the second or third date. I think she had some expectations that I just wasn't ready for yet. I was freaked. I mean,
because this is going to be the first time you like had an intimate connection with somebody, and hey, we're about to sleep with each other.
Yeah. And then you start freaking out. Like,
yeah, you're like, how do
she said, can I at least kiss you goodnight? Okay, and I said, okay, yeah. And she was so sweet. I kissed her, and she like patted me on the cheek, and she's like, you're going to do just fine.
It's like a coach.
So the next date I saw her.
How was that? After, like, were you like,
you know what?
I am like.
It was okay. It was fine. We did fine. I have come to learn, though, that there's a secret ingredient, and it's really not awesome unless you're in love. I'm that kind of person.
I agree. There's when there's a connection, even with a, with a man or a woman, it's a connection that you get.
Yeah.
Even though if you're more drawn to women, that connection still exists. So on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So I guess you weren't like, I'm assuming because she had a partner and a kid and like that connection just couldn't.
Well, I think there was a, I mean, at that point in time, I certainly wasn't looking for a long-term relationship. I really was like, is this my cup of tea? Can I do this? And can I get over that hump? I mean, she's the hump girl. No, that's a really horrible title. But it is. It's like, you got to kind of get that one behind you and like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do have to go through, you have to go through the dating process and getting to know somebody and, having like a checklist or having sort of like, this is what I want. Like,
checklist.
It's sad to say.
But like, some people have checklists. Yeah.
Especially in a monogamous sort of, if their relationship style is monogamous.
You know what? I think I was more concerned about her at times. Okay. And I remember one time we were walking down the sidewalk, and I said, I was really amazed that they had this agreement, the two of them. And I'm like, does it ever bother you? Are you ever worried that you might fall in love with somebody that you're on shore leave with? And she's like, no. She's like, we have a promise. It's always come home.
Wow.
And I couldn't really wrap my head around that because you never know when you're going to fall in love. So if she's the kind of person who goes out to have casual relationships, that's her choice, and I'm not going to judge that. Okay. But I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Each person has their own way.
Yeah.
Like feelings and all that.
So I wasn't judgy. I just couldn't understand it very well. Yeah. And she certainly wasn't judgy, or we wouldn't have been there in the first place. So
after shore leave woman.
Shore leave woman.
Like,
Yeah.
How was dating after that? Like,
Easier.
it was easier
Yeah.
after you got through the first hump?
Yeah. I'm never going to forget the line. Once I got over hump girl.
Yeah.
I was like,
And then the world just, like, dating women just became like,
it did.
okay.
It did. And then there were flops and people who stayed friends and,
Yeah.
and I realized it's a small world too.
It is.
This is LA. And it's still a small
We're
world,
in LA,
right?
in Pasadena. You go
Yeah.
from OC, I guess, does Orange County count as LA?
I don't know.
It's like kind of on the outskirts. But
I
still,
used to
like-
think, as a Midwest girl, I used to think that San Diego was a suburb of LA. So,
still think that, like okay, there's lesbians that actually live in that area.
Yeah.
It counts.
yeah. I most of these women that I dated, from the online world, I mean, it runs the gamut. There was somebody I met, and it turns out she was actually a LiLLie. This is before I had come up with the thought of LiLLies wasn't anything yet. But she had been married to a man, had left him, was kind of in the same position that I was in, but she had chosen. She said, "I'm never going to come out to my parents. I'm never going to come out to my family," and I'm like, "We're not going to be in a very important relationship." I'm like, yeah, I don't want to come out to the world to have to go back in.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Everybody has a different stage.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It was just like, and I don't think it would have, really panned out anyway.
And you
It
respected
just didn't
where
click.
you respected where she's at, and you realized like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, she has a journey to go through, and that's
Yeah.
I'm past that, but
Yeah.
she has her journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want that to be my journey,
Yeah.
and I mean, there are other friends that I know who at some time or another are like, oh, I can never come out to my parents. Things change.
Things change.
Things change. You never know. Everybody has their own timeline. I came out really fast.
Okay.
Well, no, I didn't.
Well, after
was like,
the fact you knew,
Yeah.
were like, I'm
Once
ready.
I was out, I was out.
Yeah.
And I liked coming out. Every time I came out to another person, it literally was a weight off my shoulders. I literally lost weight. Now I'm fat and happy. Happy. I was like, yeah, I need to find somebody else to come out to because I'm like losing weight. It's like, this is awesome. It's like the stress and it's like a literal uplifting. It's just like, you can breathe easier and you're happier and you're going to enjoy your kids more. And but I stayed in the same house with Kevin for a long time. Now, we separated at the very beginning of 2009. Okay? It is now 2021.
Yeah, it is.
He passed away at the end of 2020. We were still legally married. We never got a divorce. We were working on it. We were literally like in the final stages of, just agreeing to. We didn't want to fight over it. We never fought over the kids, and now they're grown up and have, flown the nest. And the reason why we stayed together is because he wanted me on his health insurance.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm a self-employed artist, and there are a lot of people out there who will understand that situation. And I'm like, well, fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And he actually said to me at one point, he's like, well, I don't see any reason to change this situation. I would rather you're on my health insurance than have to worry about you not having health insurance. So again, good guy, And I would describe my relationship now with my current as fiancé, which is why we wanted that divorce to be, we were both ready anyway.
So,
But it's like that talk, I just wanted to emphasize the taking it slow and how there are an infinite number of ways to navigate this.
Yeah.
We were not together for a very long time, but still married.
Yeah.
I personally didn't have a problem with that until I was ready to move on and really commit.
So, the person you're with now, you're now fiance, during Kevin, when he was alive, he's met her.
He had an opportunity to meet.
He had an opportunity, but he didn't.
Well, they met.
They met. Okay.
Yeah, they met.
And
it was unfortunate. I mean, it was literally the last time I saw him was right over there. He had been living in Seattle with our daughter Maya, and they came down to visit some family. And both of my daughters were here with their dad, with Sana, our housemate, and we sat at that table inside and had a meal together. It was the second time that Sana had met him, and I've heard through the grapevine that he liked her. That they didn't talk smack about her after they left.
She's great.
Thank you. He wasn't himself. It was, hindsight being 20/20. He wasn't a very healthy person when he was here. Didn't die of COVID. He passed away from other reasons. It was a surprise, but he liked her and she liked him. And I actually wish they could have gotten to know each other better, because I think they would have really hit it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted my husband to meet her husband because that would have been entertaining. Because my husband, they're both very intelligent people, but in completely different ways. And my husband would have drove her husband up the wall.
They could have been best friends. You never know. So how long have you been with Sana?
A couple of years.
A couple years.
It's going to be 3 this summer. 3 years this summer.
3 years. 3 great years.
Yeah. When I first met her, I knew we were going to be friends.
Did you guys meet in the LiLLies?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And sometimes we have these support groups. We've been doing that for years and years and years. And I don't know, a couple of years before Sana joined, we started just doing a little bit more. Let's just go out and have some fun.
Yeah.
So we had this regular. One of our members and a good friend of mine is a teacher, and in the summertime, she's like, once a week we're gonna go out and do a happy hour. And that tradition just continued, and it's a lot of fun, and we value it a lot. That's how we met. As a matter of fact, it was just the two of us for a while. My friend, who was supposed to be hosting this event, couldn't show up, and I was a little bit late because I was running
slipped him a 20. He's like, don't come.
No, poor thing. She was standing outside, waiting for somebody to show up, and then we were able to sit and talk, just the two of us, for a while. And I knew we were going to be friends. I liked her right from the beginning.
So at the beginning, before you guys so it was a slow process, and I'm assuming it's a slow process to get to know her, and then getting to the intimacy and relationship part, and at what point were you like, okay, this is let's go there?
We literally, well, I'm not sure what point you mean, but I'll tell you. Knew I liked her. We were hanging out, doing this happy hour once a week, and we literally high-fived each other one night, and I decided I'm going to ask her out on a date.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and we had, this is a funny story.
Let's hear it.
It's a funny story. We were friends, and so in our LiLLie friends and extended friends and family, we decided to go out to the desert and celebrate Oktoberfest. And there were, I don't know, half a dozen people who I think were planning on going. That was that was in August, and then as we got closer to the date, people were dropping off. Like, I can't do it. And between the time I had asked her out on a date to the time that we actually went on this Oktoberfest thing, it was supposed to be a lot of people, everybody else had dropped out. Maybe it was a ploy. Or maybe it was planned. Turns out our first date was just the two of us on this like weekend away, and
Cute.
and we got to know each other, but in a very, good girl, old-fashioned kind of way.
Like mishaps and like, whoa.
Well, you know what? I've learned my lesson about how I fall in and out of relationships, and I'm just like, I really need to take my time, because I just need to take my time. Like, I really need to. Please. I need to protect my heart and protect your heart.
And having kids, and it's like bringing a
Screw the
person.
kids. The kids are grown up.
They're out of the house. They're out of the house at this time.
Yes.
It's all about you. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It's. Were they all out of the house? No.
Not yet.
No, they weren't. They were all living with me. Everybody, including the boyfriends.
Oh, of the children. Of
Yeah,
your
I had
kids.
them all. I must,
That sounds fun, though. That sounds
it was
like
fun.
a great
Oh
time.
no, I cherished the time I lived with my kids as adults, and then I was done. No, I did. It was. She got to know them because they kind of one had gone off and to college and come home, and the other one was not quite ready to launch yet, and there were boyfriends in the house and for different circumstances. I'm like, come live here, you might as well party here instead. I don't want you wandering around LA partying, just party here. And
how do your kids take to you now, being 3 years in with your fiance?
They love
and
her.
Like, awesome.
they like her a lot. Yeah.
And they accept you and love you, and they just,
Yeah.
it's a big family.
Which apparently has not always been the case.
Yeah.
This one's a keeper. My oldest daughter's like, I love this one. That's good to know.
Yeah,
You
that
want
is
to-
very good to know.
Yeah, and so it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It sounds like you really set your journey up to, you took your time, you're slow, and like now it's like working out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's totally working out. I mean, I'm on the other side. I've, in this journey that we talk about, I've oftentimes have compared it to having to cross, like a rushing rapids, and there are a lot of rocks that you have to step on
and you can
along
like
the
die
way.
at any point, because
You can die at any point. You can slip and go off.
like trout maybe, like, or
Yeah.
whatever, salmon like popping you in the head, and you're
Yep.
like, oh, that's like
You might have people pushing you from one direction or pulling you from the other.
yeah.
And I've cautioned people. I've used this metaphor before. It's like, don't push, don't rush.
Yeah.
They got it. You have to do it yourself, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to slip and fall.
It's a journey.
It is, and you can't plan it.
No.
No, there's
Can't
no
plan your
planning.
journey.
No. I feel very fortunate and very grateful. And there's, it's a lot. If there's one thing I can say to, LiLLies out there and people who come out, you have to take the first step. It's really scary. There's going to be a lot of guilt involved.
Yeah.
That's okay. That only proves that you're a good person. If you feel shitty about what you're doing, because it is painful for other people.
Yeah.
Or can be. If you feel bad about that, that's a good sign. You're a good person. You care about other people, but you have to do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
when
that
you're ready,
airplane mask thing. You got to put your own mask on
and then help others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do it because it's worth it.
So on that note, if there's anything you have to say, our final goodbyes.
Our final goodbyes.
The LiLLies group exists, and I would like for you to, if you have any information or any advice to give anyone out there or at this point.
If you need support, it is LiLLies. It stands for Later in Life Lesbians. You can find it on meetup.com. And just because it's in LA doesn't mean that you can't find support if you're someplace else in the world.
Yeah.
We had a Scottish offshoot for a period of time,
Okay.
and then that Scottish lady moved here and married her girlfriend. There was a woman from India who we communicated with, because you can chat and you can send emails, so you can still communicate and you can still find support. Once the pandemic is over, and it doesn't mean we can't do these long distance.
Right.
But, there are a lot of LGBT groups, facilities all over the country, Don't think you're the only person.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only person who had ever done this. There's somebody out there who knows and understands what you're going through. So just reach out and help. Don't stop looking.
Keep looking.
Yeah. If you search for Later in Life Lesbians or LiLLies with 2 L's, L-I-L-L, because it's Later in Life Lesbians, you'll find us. But, Meetup is all over the world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you just do a search for coming out groups or LGBT groups, you will find the support that you need. And friendship. Love.
On that note, thank you for joining us on Les Lounge. And I want to thank Monica, our guest.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi, I'm Ren Kwon.
And I'm Michelle Stevens. We're working on a project called Les Lounge, where we take your story and help bring awareness to it. If you'd like to share your LGBTQ story or topic, please send us a message.
We would love to hear from you. Please subscribe below.